Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sacramento LAFCo meeting. I want to call the meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. Thank you very much. I have the honor of serving as chair this year. My name is Lisa Kaplan. I also serve the city of Sacramento. As you'll see my fellow commissioners here. We are locally elected who are designated by our agencies to serve on LAFCo. Our role is to oversee boundary changes of cities and special districts, the formation of new agencies, including the incorporation of new cities, districts, and the consolidation or reorganization of special districts and cities. The broad goals of the Commission's directive are to ensure the orderly formation of local government agencies, preserve agriculture and open space lands, and to discourage urban sprawl. Commissions must, by law, create municipal service reviews, MSRs, and update spheres of influence for each independent local government jurisdiction within their countywide jurisdictions. Our meetings are always open to the public, and regularly scheduled meetings are shown live on Metro Cable, Channel 14, webcast live on Metro Cable TV, and posted on the county's website. Comments are welcome, so please complete a speaker slip and return it to the county clerk up here, Ms. Washington. And time will be limited to 2 minutes per person to keep the meeting timely. And we ask that you address your comments and questions to the commissions and don't turn around and talk to the audience. So thank you very much. I would now like to ask our clerk to call the roll and establish a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners Little. Here. Moore. Hume.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Desmond.
Here.
Pratton.
Here.
And Chair Kaplan.
Here.
You have a quorum with the members that are present.
Thank you. And do we have any meeting statements we need to make besides what I made?
Yes, ma'am. This meeting of the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission is live and recorded with closed captioning. It is cablecast on Metro Cable Channel 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV UVerse cable systems. It is also live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Saturday, August 9th at 2 p.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. Once posted, the recording of this meeting can be viewed on demand at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. The Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission fosters public engagement during the meeting and engages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed toward any meeting participant. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda or off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted or disconnected while making your comment. To make a comment in person, please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk's staff. The chairperson will open public comments for each agenda or off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak, and the clerk will file the speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow each speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or for medical or other reasons, please see clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures. This concludes your announcement.
Thank you. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. If you can and you're able, please stand. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That does always remind us, of which I shall as well, put our cell phones on silent. Clerk, can you read the first item, please?
The first item is public comments on matters not on the agenda.
Do we have any public comments that have been submitted?
We do not have any public comments.
All right, we'll now move on to the next item.
The next item is approval of the consent calendar items 2 through 8.
Do we have any comments or questions on the consent calendar, commissioners? Do we have any public comments for consent?
We do not have any public comments.
Commissioner Little?
I move approval of the consent.
I'll second.
Moved by Little, second by Jones. Shall we vote?
You may vote. Your motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. Now moving on to our next item.
Item number 9 is public hearing to consider and approve the environmental review and the annexation of 3330 and 3334 U Street into the Sacramento Area Sewer District, LAFCo project number 2025-01.
Great.
Madam Chair, your policy analyst will handle this presentation.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Christy Graybo. I'm one of your policy analysts. Tonight, I'm presenting to you an annexation request. The project description is an annexation of 2 vacant residential parcels into the Sacramento Area Sewer District and/or Sac Sewer. The CEQA document for this project is a notice of exemption. Here's an aerial photo of the sites. Both parcels are located in the orange. It's 3330 and 3334 U Street. It's located in the unincorporated Sacramento County in the community of North Highlands. The nearest intersection is Watt Avenue and Antelope Road. Here is a map of the current Sac Sewer service area, and again highlighted are the parcels. The parcels are located in the Sac Sewer sphere of influence already. The key points to this project is the property is not connected to sewer, and the property owner wants to construct 2 single-family homes on each parcel. And in order to build, they either need a septic tank or a connection to sewer. So Sac Sewer will coordinate with the property owner on providing the requirements needed to acquire service. The project is consistent with Government Code 56668 and LAFCo policies. Some determinations of the project is that it is a landowner petition application. The territory that's being proposed to be included in Sac Sewer service area will reduce a hole, and it will create a more logical and orderly boundary. The project will not negatively impact the adequacy or the cost of service in the area, and the project will not affect agricultural or open space lands, and the project will not result in decrease of water supply available for regional housing needs. As such, staff is recommending that the commission approve the project. First is a resolution to determine that the project is exempt from CEQA. The second resolution is for the annexation request. And then a recommendation for the EO to complete all the necessary filings and transmittals as required by law, and determine that the approval date is 5 working days after the EO certificate of compliance is recorded by the county recorder's office. The property owner is here for any questions, but staff is available for any questions as well. And that completes staff's presentation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Graybo. Do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not have public comments.
Commissioners, any questions? And Ms. Graybo, this is just consistent with everything and any annexation we've done before. So there's nothing unique. Okay, commissioners, motion?
Madam Chair, I so move.
Moved by Jones, second by Desmond. Shall we vote?
You shall vote. Your vote is unanimous with the members present.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to the property owners. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, item number 11 is invitation by the grand jury to respond to their report on the city of Ileton. I'm sorry. Correction, item number 10, discussion on the state of cemetery services in the county.
Correct.
Thank you. Turn too many pages.
You know,
We're really
city
eager to
versus
have that discussion.
cemetery.
We're eager to have this discussion. Madam Chair, members of the commission, this item is before you. It started off with a request from Mr. Velasquez for the commission to consider prioritizing cemetery districts and to connect their MSR ahead of others. The commission asked actually to have a broader discussion on the state of cemeteries, and so this is what's before you now. Wanted to state a few things before we hear from our guests in the audience. The first thing is that because of the sheer amount of agencies that the commission has to review as part of the municipal service review plan, you've actually broken them into two separate categories. And you have a 5-year plan that starts this year, and then you have a second 5-year plan that'll start in 2030. And in that time, 2030. And in that time, you'll be reviewing different types of districts. Generally speaking, for this cycle or for this phase, you're looking at water districts and fire districts. And then you're looking at other types of districts in the second phase or the second cycle of the MSR project plan, with the districts with the park and recreation district split between the two. Cemeteries are part of this phase, this first 5-year phase. But since 2021, the direction that the commission has given to staff is look at water districts. And in that respect, staff has looked at it both as part of the project plan, but also as part of other things that have come up to your attention, thanks to the grand jury and other dynamics. So prioritizing the cemetery districts to be higher basically means moving them up ahead of the queue, in front of the water districts and in front of fire districts. And so that actually has repercussions. While most likely we could outsource the creation of the cemetery district, it doesn't mean that staff is basically not touching it. The reality is some of the things that you don't observe as part of the back office processing is that staff still has to create an RFP. Staff still has to evaluate the responses to that RFP, negotiate some things, either that's part of their response or the cost or both. And then once a consultant is selected, we still do a lot of coordination. While the consultant is working, we still provide information to the consultant. We're still involved. It's not completely hands-off. And then we have to review their work product to make sure that it's something that is presentable to the public and that it meets all the government requirements. So a consultant doesn't necessarily put staff off the hook. And so the question before you is, what priority should it be vis-a-vis everything else that you have going? As part of the background and as an introduction to the presenters, in Sacramento County, there's a combined total of 60 active cemetery districts that are still functioning, and they're a combination of private and public. In terms of the total number of cemetery districts, as you mean the inactive districts, it's something close to 127. And that would include, I'm sure, a substantial number of pioneer cemetery districts that were probably some family plot where the family members are buried. And so, again, that would be a private cemetery that's closed and not functioning. Public cemetery services in Sacramento County are provided by public cemeteries. No city or county currently provides an active cemetery district, although some jurisdictions maintain closed cemeteries, like, for example, Sacramento County has several memorial parks that are more like parks rather than an active cemetery site. So in preparation for this workshop or this open house, this discussion item, essentially staff contacted all 4 cemetery districts, and on page 2 of your staff report, we listed basically, hey, could you talk about these things to provide background to the commission in terms of the state of your cemetery districts? Out of the 4, 3 are prepared to present before you. They'll be presented in the order in which we received well, we'll actually go by alpha. So first it'll be Fair Oaks Cemetery District, followed by Sylvan, And then Elk Grove Cosumnes will also speak to you, but they do not have a formal presentation. And then in addition, we've also asked Mr. Velasquez to present, and then as well as Brian Hughes, who has served as counsel for cemetery districts, and he also has prepared a presentation. So we'll be hearing from those folks. And without further ado, I'd like to invite the representatives from Fair Oak Cemetery District.
Welcome.
How's that going to work? All right, I'll push this button. Like that, okay. Well, thank you very much for having us here. I appreciate that. We are a complete board is here, as well as the district manager and Misty, our administrative assistant, who really runs the place. So without further ado, we'll go through this presentation. This is a basic overview of how the cemetery is right now, and it has to do with the history. I'd rather get into some of the more current details than just focus on the history right now, so I'm going to slide through this. The district boundary, which we'll see on the left there, shows our current district boundaries, and you'll see Fair Oaks, if you can see closely, is right in the middle of the upper center portion of that boundary. So it's quite extensive, as you can see. We have 3 full-time employees. We have a district manager, we have a district foreman, and we have an office manager. And we have 3 temps that we have gone through over the years, and we have a lot of confidence. Our manager will tell you they have confidence in the quality of these employees. We currently have a board of 5 trustees. I'm the chair. Carolyn Flood has been a board member for many years. Don Neufeld has been more board member for quite a few years. And John Oldham and Evan Curry are relatively new. This is their first year. We have 2 community events every year. We have a Memorial Day event, which has been going on for a long time. It's a great event that the public really likes. We put up many flags and crosses and stars at certain graves and throughout the cemetery, and we have speakers such as Supervisor Desmond, as well as other dignitaries locally that present at this every year, and it's a really beloved event in the community. Our current state of the cemetery, you can see here. We have total burials as of June 30th of this year is over 15,000. We have about 200 burials a year. And right now, the plots available, we have 427 or a 4 to 5 year future for caskets, and a 971 or a 9 to 10 year future for cremations. We have developed a 10-year plan, and we are under some constraints because of our financial situation. Not that it's hopeless, but it's tight, and we do our best to stretch every dollar we get in. Because we are landlocked, we do need additional land that we would like to obtain sooner rather than later. We have a budget of just under $1 million. We have included $89,000 a year for land for the last 5 years. The average income over the last 5 years, you see from tax revenues, it's $271,000. Sales revenues is the bulk of our income, and that's for a total of slightly over $800,000. We have expenditures of $717,000 over the last 5 years, so you can see that we're running a tight ship. Revenue funds, first and foremost, the tax revenue we currently receive does not cover the salaries of our 3 essential employees, and this shortfall presents an ongoing operational challenge. You can see, we're going to leave you with a copy of this so you can see some of the other issues that we have regarding funding. This is the map that is of extreme importance. Supervisor Desmond has seen this. I believe Ms. Jones has seen this also. So you'll see this large green line is our current boundary of our cemetery district. The purple line, which is in the upper center of that, is the original footprint for our cemetery district. The pink spaces, in fact, are the TRAs, or the tax revenue areas, that are currently contributing to our cemetery. It's a little puzzling, but some of those pink areas are outside even our original footprint. And you'll see there's one tiny one to the far left that I'm not sure how that got in there. We've talked to the tax assessor, we've talked to the auditor, we've talked to many different people about how this has developed like this, and nobody seems to have an answer. I do know that back in the 50s and 60s, the only parcels you could purchase in Fair Oaks were 5-acre parcels. And I'm not sure because, again, this is from the 50s, so records are difficult to come by, but I would imagine that those large parcels were all contributing to our cemetery district, and then when they were subdivided into quarter-acre lots or parcels, maybe the original one was retained, but the other 19 out of the 20 were not. So we're in this challenging situation right now. We weren't even aware of this because for years we were charging all the people within our geographic footprint our lower rate, when in fact they were not in fact contributing. And in some cases, the reverse was true. We thought they weren't in our original footprint, so we were charging them the higher rate, and they were contributing. So it's an interesting situation, and I've alerted other special districts to this anomaly and hopes that they would go back to see, in fact, they're just assuming, like it would be easy to do, that everybody in their footprint would be contributing. So I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I think it would be of interest to the other cemetery districts. You have any questions about this before we move on? I do. Yes.
Yeah, and so you mentioned how the parcels outside the district got in, but then why is there, I assume that that's the boundary of your district, and there's a lot of parcels within the district that are not colored pink?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, who's to say? We've talked to the county assessor about this. They said they're told what TRAs to break down the 1% in your real estate tax, that goes to Sacramento County.
Yeah. And
they said, well, we're just instructed by LAFCo on who gets to contribute and who doesn't. So, and I talked, and Mr. Enriquez and I have talked about this, and they said, well, no, this is just not something that we told them, do this, don't do this, charge these people, don't charge those people. So it's really one of those things, because it happened so many years ago. Our boundary was extended not recently. So it's a try talking with the county, try talking with the county assessor, try talking with the auditor, so we talked to all these different people, and nobody has a definitive answer. But what we'd like is not to go back and change everything from in years past, but we'd like to have something stable moving forward so we can get an appropriate tax revenue from those people in our district.
Well, and I would assume the issue is not just one of revenue, but also of providing the service, in that if one of those persons passes away who's in the pink area outside the district,
right,
you might deny them the use of the cemetery, not them specifically, but
yeah.
Or the obverse would be true, and you have somebody within the district who hasn't been paying in, who would be allowed.
What we do now, since we've discovered this situation, is for everyone who comes in and is of interest on either buying a plot or using a plot they purchased in the past or something like that, we ask them, what's your address? Where do you live? And then we go to our map and find out on the TRAs, have they been a contributor or not? Wow. And then in some cases, they're very happy because they didn't know they were, but in fact they are. In other cases, not so much, because they thought they were, but they're not. So we have to go case by case as these people come in. And it's the cemetery is in high demand because it's very beautiful. People want to come in and use our facility.
Commissioner Desmond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Pete, thank you for being here. And you and I have had many conversations about this, and extremely frustrating for the district, and no one can really understand how this evolved the way it did. I'm sure this is an anomaly in the state of California. I'd like to ask Jose if you can shed any light on this, and if you have any ideas on how we can address this.
Well, I'll start how we got here. I reviewed the documents that existed from the original enlargement of the district, and I'll tell you what's on the record, and I can speculate the other stuff. But what's on the record is that as part of the LAFCo process, when you're adjusting the boundaries, you go through what's called the ABA process, or the property tax exchange process. And for an agency such as a cemetery district that relies on property taxes, there's a negotiation to recalculate the formula or the allocation of the property taxes, as Mr. Hirschman had indicated. As you know, Prop 13 essentially caps the property tax amount that you can collect from each property to 1% of the value at the time of the property exchange hands. And then the agencies that want a share of that property tax dollar, there's a formula that basically allocates a certain percentage. And it's a closed, because you can't increase the number that you can collect, it's a closed system. For a new agency to receive a portion of the property tax, other agencies have to lose. So that's the background on property taxes. And when Fair Oaks was expanded, what's on the record is that the LAFCo and the county had indicated that there was not going to be a change of property taxes on the newly annexed areas, that the formula would remain the same. They had requested that the district essentially adopt a resolution saying that they understood that and that they agreed with it. The district never did. So the annexation proceeded without the reformulation of the property tax formula. That's what's on the record. I can only speculate what happened in the background, but that's what's on the record. So that was a research that I made at the request of Commissioner Desmond about what happened at the time. That's what's there. I actually tried contacting my predecessor, who was the executive officer at the time. He never returned my call. So that's what it is. Now, what can we do on a going forward basis? LAFCo there are very limited ways in which you can reopen the formula of the property tax allocation. A change in boundary is one of them. That's probably the most popular one to do it. There's other provisions within the Revenue and Tax Code 99 that allows you to reopen up the formula without LAFCO involvement, but it essentially means that all of the agencies agree to reopen the allocation. And the chances of that happening, probably winning the lotto is a higher, you have better odds. So the LAFCO options are limited. There's one that I'm not sure if I'm ready to say anything about it, but what I can say is that essentially on the LAFCO front, unless you're changing the boundary, there isn't a way really to reopen up the formula from a LAFCO standpoint. And even if you do reopen the boundary, it's only in the area that's affected. Can you reallocate it? So you can't just, let's say, well, we're going to detach this little teeny tiny portion on the west side, and that'll open up the property tax allocation formula for the remainder of the district. You can't do that. The Revenue Tax Code is very specific that it's only in the area that's affected. Can you reopen that property tax formula?
Commissioner Desmond? Yeah.
Have you seen this before with special? Because I mean, when you break it down to its most basic terms, the district expanded its service area dramatically, did not expand its revenue in any way, shape, or form, yet is still obligated to serve all the people in this much larger area. and that cost is now borne by the people who have been paying an assessment on their property tax all these years. I mean, am I misstating that?
No,
that's the
that's
situation we're
accurate.
in. Have you seen this with other districts that expanded throughout the state? It just seems, how could this happen?
Not to this extreme. It has happened in other parts of the state. In my previous counties that I worked in, Yolo and El Dorado, that's happened as well. But not to this extreme where you've folded or you increased the size of the district multiple times over its original footprint without really addressing the formula and not really knowing. At the time, LAFCo law was the Cortese-Knox. Actually, it was early 80s, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So that was Knox-Nisbet.
Knox.
Yeah, so it was Knox-Nisbet. I don't know enough about Knox-Nisbet to tell you what the requirements are, but I can tell you that from Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg now, this wouldn't fly, simply because whenever you're looking at a change of boundary for a district, it has to be revenue neutral is not the right word, but basically you have to be receiving as much revenue for the cost of increasing cost of extending services. So it has to be reciprocal, and the law does not allow such a one-sided annexation this way.
Chair Kaplan, if I can, just to add on that, though, I want to remind you that even if the boundaries change and the tax formula is reopened, the parties must agree, and the county must agree to the reallocation. And as some of you know and may be reminded, that it's often hard to get existing districts or the county to give up the formula, because it's not like there's an increased tax overall. The total tax amount remains constant. What gets reopened is the distribution formula. And it is very common that for other types of districts, even if you're annexed to a special district, the county does not agree to a reallocation of the tax formula. So it's kind of a two-step process. The district boundaries change, and then the tax formula has to be changed. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
Okay, thank you. One last question. Is there a mechanism whereby the cemetery district, if a resident who, say, is a property owner in the district dies and wants to take advantage of the services of the cemetery district, is there any mechanism where the cemetery district can levy a charge against that person's property? I mean, I don't know, just kind of top of my head. Is there any other avenue for the cemetery district?
That is beyond my is beyond my ability to respond.
Some kind of fee
But
for
you know, the district is within its rights to have a fee schedule and create the fee schedule based upon the circumstances. So, like Mr. Hirschman had indicated, if you're in the pink area, you can. You pay a certain rate because you've been paying as part of your portion of property taxes has been going to maintaining the district. If you are in the purple area, you might pay a differential rate, and then if you're in the green area, you might pay a different rate. So they're within their ability and under the law that they can charge different amounts even if they are all district residents.
Right, but the issue is ongoing revenue.
Correct.
For this, okay, thank you.
And I just want to follow up. Thank you, Commissioner Desmond. That was actually one of my questions. Was it legal if they have differential costs? Just in the meantime, something to consider for the board to consider. And then I don't know if the question had been asked, and it's okay if we don't know now, but I get all parties have to agree, but what about when you have the sale of property, which then the property tax gets reassessed? If at that reassessment, you can still pull in a property at a time?
No. The reality is that, as Ms. Gillick had explained, Mr. Hirschman indicated there's a tax rate area. What the tax rate area is essentially, it designates what the allocation is of that property tax dollar. And so the resident really, they will continue to pay taxes based upon when they bought it, how much they bought it, blah, blah, blah. But it's always at 1% of the value of when they purchased that property. What the tax rate area is basically tells the assessor is that, okay, we're collecting this amount of money, but it's allocated with this formula. And so an exchange of property doesn't change the formula. The formula remains the same.
Thank you. Thought I'd ask that. And then always, I'm sure you guys have people smarter than I. If somebody wants to, this opens up Pandora's box of
It was a good question. I thought that's a good
of
question.
other potential lawsuits of treating taxing entities differently within a jurisdiction, and how that applies. So don't know that, but wow, what a conundrum.
One other thing I'd like to include before I sit down, I'm going to show you this. Partnerships. We've been a long-established district within our community. We have tremendous interdependence with other partnerships with other districts, or not districts, but organizations within Fair Oaks. It's a great community, as Supervisor Desmond has come to know. When I was president of our Rotary Club, my theme was building bridges. I want to build bridges. I want to work with LAFCo. I want to work with the county. I want to work with as many people as we can to solve the problems. I don't want to go off. I don't want to alienate people. We are interested in collaboratively figuring out how we're going to handle this situation. It's not easy, but it's absolutely, we are very hopeful that there's some avenues that we're going to be able to carve our solution out of. And so this is what we'll continue to do. And I appreciate LAFCo's participation in this, and the commission. You guys, I really appreciate you guys too.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
You've done the four-way test in Rotary proud.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to apologize to Mr. Schroeder. I kept calling you by the wrong name. I'm sorry.
You did. No comment. I'll behave. Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, next I'd like to invite the representatives from Sylvan Cemetery District.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Cindy Price. I'm General Manager for Sylvan Cemetery, and I thank you for this opportunity to review the state of Sylvan Cemetery District. Little quick, fun history facts. Of the 4 cemetery districts in Sacramento County, Sylvan Cemetery District is the oldest, established in 1862 with a tenth of an acre donated by Daniel Lewis. Expanded from there, we were a freight wagon stop, the route to the gold country. The next slide is kind of hard to read. It's a deed. The original deed was consumed by fire. In 1893, the board, this deed was made by the Board of Trustees, and we still have it in our office to this day. So an overview of Sylvan Cemetery District, you can see Citrus Heights there is the only portion of our district that we get the property taxes from, with a much larger sphere of influence. So we have 3 office staff employees, myself as general manager, our office manager, Brenda, who's here tonight, and our administrator who oversees the bookkeeping and board secretary. We have 5 full-time, 2 part-time grounds crew. Our foreman is here tonight. Pavel is here. He oversees all the working, the outside, in delegating to our crew and keeping it running nice, tight ship. We have a vacant board position at this time. 3 of our 4 acting board members are here. Jim Monteaton, our chairman, who also serves on our finance committee. Tony Rago, who's a trustee and also serves on our finance committee, and Mike Cheney, our newest trustee. We too have a couple yearly events that we host, our Memorial Day service and our Veterans Day service. It's very well attended by our Citrus Heights community, as well as our mayor, our city council members, our city manager, board of supervisors, chief of police, our police department color guard, Daughters of American Revolution, and we're supported by the American Legion Post 637. We have our 7th annual 9/11 Memorial Service this year coming up, where we honor our Citrus Heights first responders and also United States first responders, including police officers, firefighters, and chaplains. We also do an annual or biannual cemetery tour and participate in many of the local senior fairs. So as far as occupancy, We do offer both the single and double depth casket burials. We offer ground cremation burials where we can fit 2 to 6 cremations in each plot, and we have the niche wall. As of June 30th, 2025, we had 11,442 total occupancy. The last 5-year average of 353 burials per year were one of the more active cemeteries. 260 of those were casket, which makes up 73.5% of our total burials. 87 cremation makes up 24.5%, and then 32 baby. As far as availability, we currently have 467 plots available, casket plots available, 285 cremation ground, 317 niche, and 30 baby. We have 1.7 acres of undeveloped land. We do have a project planned for this fall. We will be installing 1,000 vaults that will make up about 0.6 acres of our property, which is going to leave us about 1.1, so roughly 1,800 plots. We anticipate the 1,000 that we're putting in to last about 6 or 7 years worth of sales. Based on these numbers and the fact that we have suspended our pre-need sales, we anticipate our remaining 1.7 acres to yield approximately 16 or 17 years worth of plot sales. So as previously stated, we anticipate 16 to 17 years of plot sales with our remaining undeveloped property. Beyond that, we just don't know. The city of Citrus Heights has reached its growth limit. The annexation of 1980 that we were talking about expanded the service area of our district, but did not include the normal AB8 tax exchange for the annexed territory. Our annexed territory is growing by leaps and bounds, Antelope, some of those areas. But our tax base does not grow. So this not only puts a financial strain on the district, but a property strain as well. So the financial position of our cemetery, our last year, 5-year average, just over $1.2 million budget. The revenue sources, that 5-year average, we get 0.007 of the tax exchange for Citrus Heights. Our interest income, so that's investments, we get about $12,000 of recurring, and then sales revenue for us also makes up the bulk of our funding. As stated before, without the AB tax support, we're limited in our opportunities to buy more land. We'd love to be able to explore ideas and strategies to be able to continue providing for our community. So the next slide is just some of our annual expenditures and final thoughts. So we believe that we perform a vital service to our community. We're responsible for the efficient and effective operation of our cemetery, while also protecting the historic grave sites for future generations. We're the final resting place for many of the early settlers and builders of our towns, cities, and state. Our present mandate to provide our families with dignified yet affordable burials is one that we take very seriously. We serve a very individual and unique community that comes with their own traditions and customs, and we've learned to adapt to them and serve them to the best of our ability. So we thank you for your support.
Commissioners, questions? So again, as you've stated, you're in a rapidly growing area with a county.
Right.
Has there been any discussion in any way about how you go back and relook at it? Have you had those discussions?
We have had those discussions. There was actually even a lawsuit that happened just before my time at the cemetery, but the statute of limitations had been met.
All right. Anything else, commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Hume?
Thank you. I do have one question. In looking at your kind of financial state of the district, I believe the lion's share, just shy of $1 million, was sales income,
Sales.
which is one time, and which, if I recall, in looking at sort of the future, even though you have land available, you have stopped pre-selling. Did I read that correctly?
That is correct. So at the time, we have about 400, just over 400 casket burials, and our average is 353 per year. Our project that we plan to start in fall will probably be ready by next summer. So we're trying to reserve our inventory of what we have available right now for at-needs. So we are just accepting at-need burials at this time, with the exception of like a spouse. If someone wants to bury husband, we will allow for pre-need of the spouse, but people can't just come in and prepare for the future like we've allowed for as long as I've been there,
And
17
so,
years.
obviously, I think it stands to reason then that exacerbates the financial strain.
It sure does.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it sure does.
All right. Oh, Enrique?
Madam Chair,
Grace.
Commissioner Hume's question actually prompted me to, my answer was incomplete relating to a new increment, inserting a new recipient of a property tax dollar in the reallocation of the formula. It's actually only on the growth in the value of the property. It's called increment. So with property taxes, you have base and you have the increment. Base is basically what it is now and going back to the past. And then increment is basically any growth from whatever, in the value of the property at whatever time slot you want to put it. So if, let's say, we were having a discussion about the annexation of the large area for either Sylvan or Fair Oaks, and let's say that they received a portion of the property tax, it's only on the value from that moment forward, from the moment that the annexation becomes effective forward. So it is possible to reopen base, but there's a lot of laws relating to it that makes it very, very difficult. So typically on LAFCo-related annexations, we're talking about increment. So you're never looking at, let's say, properties valued at $10,000, and so you now receive 1% of that, and that's what you get in property tax dollar. No, it's 10% of the added value beyond 10,000. So as the property increases, as typically does, it's only on the future value of the property that you get that portion of the share. It's quite possible for older districts or in older areas that they receive an increment of property taxes, but they never see their property tax revenues grow because the value of the property doesn't grow, or it grows at a very slow rate. So even inserting a new agency into the property tax formula isn't necessarily the cure, because it's always relying on the future growth of that property.
All right, well, then that makes me want to ask another question. If you have a development that's coming in the area, can somebody put a requirement on the new development before it's ever approved that this comes in?
That would be dependent upon whether or not you have a change in boundary. So, like your typical development here in Sacramento County, right? You're annexing to, let's say, a city or a special district because a new development is going to come in. In order for that agency to provide services to that area, you have to adjust the boundary. And so in that area where the boundary is being adjusted, the property tax formula is opened up, and it could be reallocated. It's never a guarantee, as Council Gillick had indicated. But if it is changed, it's only in the increase in value of that area. So it's never, again, it's not necessarily the cure.
No, but it goes from empty land to then land with houses on it.
Correct. And so it's on the growth of the property. So the base is the undeveloped land going back to 1850, I guess. And that revenue will always go probably to the county. It's only on the growth after that.
Well, a lot to think about. Thank you.
And even if, like, let's say there's a new development that's going into the Sylvan service area, because the property tax formula isn't changed because there's no change in boundary, they get no benefit out of it.
Lovely. Awesome. All right.
Madam Chair, then I'd like to request the representative from Elk Grove Casunas Cemetery District to come up.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Lambden. I'm the general manager of the Elk Grove Consumnes Cemetery District. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to make a nice slideshow, but I would like to tell you a little bit about our district. Our district has an area, a proper in-district area, I guess you would say, of about 250 square miles, with the sphere of influence, which includes another 250 square miles. In that, we have 6 cemeteries total, 3 of which are active. My youngest cemetery is started in 1877. My oldest cemetery started, we have reason to believe that it started as early as 1849, but we're not 100% sure. So very old cemeteries. And we also have, which we just purchased recently, one standalone building for a future site for our office and our grounds to come back together. So that is our total district. We have 7 staff. That's made up of 3 office staff, and 3 seems to be the number for all the office staffs, and 4 groundskeepers. We have a board of 5 members. 1 seat is currently empty. I do have 1 board member with me today, James Means. We conduct regular monthly board meetings with very little attendance from the public generally. Of our 3 active cemeteries, Hilltop is our busiest and has room for about 5 to 10 years of interments left. It is a landlocked cemetery on Waterman Road. Franklin Cemetery has about the same 5 to 10 years of plots available. That is also a landlocked cemetery and is located on the corner of Franklin and Hood Franklin Road, next door to the old Franklin Elementary School. Pleasant Grove Cemetery is our largest cemetery and has about 15 undeveloped acres. Unfortunately, the only access to this cemetery is by a small rural road that does get clogged with traffic from the elementary school next door. I project that this cemetery will provide 50+ years of interments. I do believe to properly serve our public, we will require more land for interment use within the next 20 years. I only mention that because I do not think that the cemetery where we have those 15 undeveloped acres would be a viable place for a cemetery since it does not touch a main road. Our budget is roughly, over the last 5 years, about $4.8 million, with about $1 million in tax revenue and about $100,000 to $150,000 in one-time sales. And it requires about $1.4 million of operational costs, excluding land, construction, and equipment. All in all, we're in a very strong financial position as a district thanks to the very careful conservative efforts of the staff and my board. We typically hold 1 major public event each year, which is Memorial Day. And before the COVID setbacks, we saw around 300 to 350 people attend. We're slowly getting back to that number. I think this last year we had an attendance well over 100 people. We do partner for our Memorial Day events as well as many other things we do throughout the years. We partner with both American Legion posts in Elk Grove, the VFW post, and the CCSD. We believe that it is very important to have strong community ties with the other districts and the other agencies within our area and our community. And that's pretty much all I got. Does anybody have any questions?
Commissioners, questions?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, your next presenter will be Mr. Velasquez.
Thank you. Great to see all of you again. I'm very happy to be here. Oops. I had previously provided copies of the presentation to hand out, but I've got extra copies for anybody that wants it. My goal, as I've said the last couple of times I've come to this commission, is to focus, is not to solve the county's problem, although I'm very happy to help in that this is all brought forward what's happening with especially the cemetery districts in the northern part of our county here. So I will focus on what my main goal is, and that has been a cost-effective cemetery for the citizens of the city of Sacramento. You've got a bigger picture, but part of that is actually the elephant in the room, which is the city of Sacramento of 529,000 that has 0 cemetery districts in it. As part of the presentation, I'll show you in a second here, there is one beneficial cemetery district, which is really just the fancy word of nonprofit. It was the early way of saying nonprofit, and that's Oddfellows Cemetery. And as I stated before, they've got about 5 years left of burials before they're done. There are private cemeteries within the city of Sacramento. That's not my point, because most people can't afford them. Some data, which is besides our population is, 535,798 and growing. The average median income for the city of Sacramento residents is 42,170. That is unaffordable, so that makes private cemeteries unaffordable. What is the option? That's why I'm here. That's my goal, is to get the city, because that's what's going to be coming next, is to get the city to submit that application to this board to create another cemetery district. Now, with the help of somebody, this Lees and Associates, who gave me their time pro bono. Yeah, have at it. Sorry. They helped me create this vision. I've looked at it. I'm trying to do some of the work of planning that the city should be doing, which is, let's look to see where is the locations that we can develop a public cemetery district. And I say public cemetery district because I really understand the practicalities. The city is not going to, on their own, come up with the money and create a whole nother cemetery, fund it, build it, and operate it. That's not in the cards. That's why I like a cemetery district idea, and that's what our wonderful legislators many, many years ago saw. And they said, great, let's create this idea of a cemetery district, because that takes the burden off of the cities and counties to focus on what's that one particular need is. So I have started, it's just a vision, but this is building on land that the city already has, that the land the city purchased for future public needs, which I think we all agree a public cemetery district would be. And this vision kind of takes into account the survey that the city already did onto what to do with this property. I kind of picked this property because it's there. The city purchased it for future needs. I also picked this property because it has enough land. What you might have seen in these reports that you've been hearing from everybody is, at this day and age with our populations, 10 acres doesn't cut it. 5 acres doesn't cut it. Even 15 acres doesn't cut it. We've got, what I'm looking at, my vision is is 50 acres. Actually, it's 48 acres of the 102 acres that the city had purchased for public needs. And this vision that I've got incorporates all the other things that the public screams about every day, regardless of anything, which is affordable housing and recreational services. Okay, let's put it all together. Okay, button, other button. Yeah. Again, here's that picture that you might have seen a couple of times. You've got Fair Oaks and Sylvan to the top. You've got Elk Grove and Galt Arno Cemetery District to the bottom, and right in the middle, where the majority of the population really is, the city of Sacramento, has one green dot, and that's Oddfellows, and a bunch of red dots. Going to this actual, and this is wonderful stuff. I'll let you read it on your own, but this is starting to look at that one piece of parcel, the 102 acres that's off of basically Meadowview, which I'm looking at, I'd say, half of it to be a public cemetery. And I don't call it a public cemetery, it's a memorial park. Our cemeteries, as you also heard before, are parks. They're a type of park. They can be used as basically open. I hope they could be used as open spaces. You can have trails through it, and then you could actually see what you do here when you take pictures. This is a picture of Land Park, of course, but you can add other items into it, such as trails, and you could, there's certain gardens that we put in there because this area does have some wetland issues. And this vision kind of takes that into account and says, well, we can't bury there. Let's make it, part of the necessary landscape there and make it even prettier. Can I go back? Yes. So that's kind of the big overview of the location. It's near Delta Shores, all that building down over there. It is near transit. It is, where am I now? And this is kind of the bigger picture, right? Half of it's the cemetery on the bottom. That's our vision. Where we have grass or little pools there, it's because that is actually where the vernal pools are. And then, of course, if we could combine this with affordable housing and some recreation, well, it's a win-win-win. Different ideas of what you can do with this wonderful place. And it really starts, if you notice our division, it's adoption by the city. Actually, before we get there, is the city needs to put in an application to this board to start a new cemetery district so we could actually have this wonderful vision in, 10 years or so, hopefully. I did want to make a couple of points. I understand the realities. I understand your limits in LAFCo. So my asks after today are kind of simple. Make sure the MSR stays on track, because that's going to be key for the city. I know it's going to be. I could see it happening. I'm really disappointed when I heard staff today start talking about the beginning of their five-year first phase of your MSRs, and we're at the bottom of that. I'm hearing staff today say our MSR for this won't be for another 5 years. That's what I heard. That is not what was discussed when this was before this commission a little over a year ago. We had a session on this and a discussion, and what was stated from staff was by the end of 2025 or 2026 is when the MSR for this was going to be. We had a very vibrant discussion. We discussed how the cemetery districts are the oldest of the MSRs not to be done, over 20 years ago, 2004. There's lots of discussion, so I'm a little disappointed that I heard what I heard earlier from staff regarding the MSR. So my ask is keep this MSR on track, not in 5 years, but by the end of this year or next year, which was what was discussed last time. Of course, I'd even loved it bumped up even further. That is for you to discuss and to decide the priority of that, but please don't let that fall behind. My second ask is this. Take back what you're hearing today and what you've heard from me for the last 2 years to county board of supervisors and city council, because it's now on going to the city council to really discuss. This is for the city of Sacramento, right? And these bigger issues are all the county issues. We're hearing over and over and over the tax issue. That is something, especially for Fair Oaks, that I think this commission should really work hard at getting. I appreciate staff. They sound knowledgeable, but that's not county council there. we should have county council discussing the issues of how we can fix what this commission's predecessors failed to do, especially when it came to Fair Oaks. Don't back down. Don't be afraid to think outside the box of how we can fix some of these problems. We've heard your commission's name used as part of the problem, that LAFCo said don't, or LAFCo did not follow through. Well, you're LAFCo now. It's time to let's do the extra work to fix some of these problems. A couple of things, because I am a cemetery, I'll take my 2 minutes on things that are not exactly for Meadowview Park, which I think is beautiful. If the city has better ideas, wonderful. I've reached out to city council members and I have for meetings so I could explain some of this, and what I get back is we can't do another big project. We're too busy. That's silly. That's a BS answer, because in that how many times have we been talking about, the rail yards project? We've got the I Street Bridge. We've got the stadium issue. Of course, our government entities are working on big projects all the time, regardless of budget issues. And as a matter of fact, on our city's website, the 102 acres that this park, that this vision is for, is listed as one of the major projects for the city of Sacramento. So my ask is for the council members, go back, get it on the agenda for the city council, start talking about cemetery needs, district needs, and planning for it. I really, really want, my goal is to have a cost-effective option for to the residents of city of Sacramento. There isn't one. Well, there's one done in 5 years. My goal is not to see, like I saw last year, families on the street corners with buckets to try to fund burials. My goal is not to see urns of remains on mantles or doorstops because that's all they could afford. And all of a sudden, it's just another class system where the poor don't get to bury. They stick the urn, they pass it around, but the rich get actually, and I'm, of course, making this a large example, but the rich get to actually bury, but the poor don't. That's silly. This comes down to planning and action and just getting it done, giving direction. And so that was my second ask. Take it back. Oh, by the way, at least because I am an attorney, I have done a lot of this work. Chair Kaplan, yes, you can charge different rates for different people within the district. Our esteemed staff over here who talked about the county, since Prop 13, county does take it or leave it. Sure, we'll expand your sphere of influence all you want. We're not giving you a dime. They do that all the time, not just in Sacramento County, up and down the state they've been doing that. It is a take it or leave it. Scarily, unfortunately, in the law, it says that the county negotiates on behalf of the districts. That is what's creating, they're not playing by the rules, that is what's creating, it's the biggest conflict of interest I've ever seen in my life, that the county's negotiating on our half. So yes, I will wrap this up.
Thank you.
With leaving you with my presentation and thoughts.
Thank you, and I really appreciate this. I think as each of us in a local jurisdiction know, I would always say start with the council member whose district that land is in, because she has put in a lot of time and effort with her community about a vision. So outside of that land, I would encourage you to come to City Council and ask for the city to study and look at this, whether it's this piece of land or other piece of land. It will have to be council direction of what gets it there, and a majority of council. So I encourage you to also come to council to ask for that.
But I can't get it on the agenda. You can.
No, I can't. The mayor and the vice mayor and the city manager can put things on the agenda.
Roger that. Thank you very much.
All right. Commissioner Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. And I know this has been already a long discussion, and I appreciate the discussion. This is, it's a bit of a mess in many ways. And I tell you, I have had conversations with county council about this, and oftentimes they're left scratching their heads as well. And I do think that hearing from Fair Oaks and Sylvan at our Board of Supervisors meeting would be very effective as well. I don't think we have really done that yet, Pete, but let's follow up and talk about that. I did want to follow up. I know Sylvan mentioned a lawsuit, and you're outside of the statute of limitations for some litigation, but there was litigation filed by the Fair Oaks District. Do you have the history on that, Jose, or would you mind if I asked Pete? Can you give us a little bit of information about that litigation and what was the result of it? Please come up to the podium, Pete, so we can hear you, if you don't mind. Sorry.
For the
Thank you, Chair.
record.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. We just want to get you extra exercise tonight.
I like it. I need more steps. Just ask my wife. Yeah, it was suggested that we sue based on, we wanted development fees to be charged for new construction, new builders, and we thought this was a way of getting extra revenue from a different source. And one thing led to another, and we ended up withdrawing it because it wasn't, the indication was this was never going to fly, so why throw good money after bad and things like that. So you recall that, Jose? No?
No, but
It was
my
before,
brain's been
yeah, it was
fried lately.
before
so-
your time, before my time. But it was an attempt to go in a different direction to obtain some additional revenues. It had nothing to do with the TRAs or anything like that, but it was for the builders. And when your predecessor was involved.
Okay, Pete.
So that's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Okay, that's helpful. So I will follow up anyway with our county council once more about this, and I think it would be helpful if you came to the board meeting. In terms of the MSR, I mean, Mark, I understand where you're coming from. A question I did have. I'm not inclined to change our schedule because of the critical needs of our water districts and our fire districts, certainly. But is there a path for if one of the districts, say, wanted to pay for it, could they be moved up in the queue, Jose?
Yes, if a district applies for it and they're willing to pay for it, they can.
So there's, okay. All right. Thank you.
Or another entity. It doesn't necessarily have to be the cemetery district.
Thank you.
Wealthy benefactor. Thank you, Commissioner Desmond. I also had that. Commissioner Hume.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I appreciate everyone's time and coming out to provide the information on the different districts. This has been a very worthwhile discussion, in my estimation, and obviously one that we haven't had in a while. And it should be, I think, prioritized at whatever the workload allows. But a couple of questions. The first is, do we have a map that I would be able to find and pull down to look for the, I believe they're called the TRAs for each of the districts? Is that available on the website?
Yes, but that you could get through that through the assessor's office, not through LAFCo. We wouldn't have that. But the assessor's office, you can split it one or two ways. You can request a spreadsheet of all the tax rate areas within a specified district, and they'll provide that to you.
Okay.
Or you can ask for a map that shows you basically not just the map of the district boundaries, but also the tax rate areas within it.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to take a look at that, and I'll work with my colleague, Commissioner Desmond, to look at how we can examine different options, because obviously it was identified as an issue for the two districts to the north. I assume it's not an issue for Elk Grove? No? And maybe or maybe not for Galt Arno, but these new growth areas, if they are not annexed in, then that increment really is not being utilized for the benefit of a very important need. And then the last thing I wanted to know is, in the map of the districts, there is a gap between Elk Grove and Fair Oaks, and it covers the areas of Rosemont and Rancho Cordova. What's planned for those folks? I know that they're within the sphere of influence of the Elk Grove Cemetery District, but that would require an annexation on their part to bring in an area that has not been paying into the TRA.
Correct. So that would have to be addressed either through the formation of a new cemetery district or through the annexation into into Elk Grove Cosumnes. If it's an annexation into Elk Grove Cosumnes, it opens up the property tax formula for that area. And in that case, the cemetery district could lobby or request that they be added to the formula. So on an annexation, LAFCo can't initiate it. That's not within our allotted powers. What is allotted under our powers is that LAFCO could form a new cemetery district in its place. But then at that point, number one, LAFCO bears all the cost. But number two, we would really have to study to see whether or not a district would be viable in that area. It might. What I can tell you, generally speaking, and this is applicable to some of the cemetery districts, statewide cemetery districts tend to be very much a cash poor type of district. And it was essentially they were victims of their own success at the time of Prop 13, because what happened at Prop 13 is that when it capped the amount of property taxes that can be collected, it essentially froze the ability of new agencies to receive a portion of the property taxes. And so actually rural fire districts, cemetery districts, some park and rec districts, because at the time they had a very low share of property taxes, they relied extensively on volunteers, and they were basically making do with those kinds of revenues. When Prop 13 froze everything, they received a smaller share of property in the property tax formula, and so they ended up being basically taking an involuntary vow of poverty at that point, because they just if they receive an increment of if they receive a percentage of the property tax dollar, it tends to be very, very low. And that's pretty true of up and down the state with very few minor exceptions. And so at the time, let's say the commission was inclined to form a new district to encompass that area that's not within the currently within the cemetery district. Let's call it Central Sac Cemetery District, just for discussion purposes. It would have to determine basically an ongoing revenue source, and if it becomes a property tax as what would be the main source of revenue for that district, it means that any district currently receiving an increment of property tax in that area would actually lose in order to accommodate this new district to receive a portion of the property tax amount.
Which then, back to Mr. Velasquez's point, is somewhat of an inherent conflict of interest, because I can tell you every dollar is precious, and so if it's not up to the body approving the annexation, and it's up to the body that's currently collecting that increment.
Correct.
To voluntarily take on that vow of poverty for themselves.
Yeah, because basically, as Mr. Velasquez indicated, the county negotiates on behalf of the districts, which is very separate from city annexations, in which the city and the county have to sit down and hash that out. So,
Okay, thank you, Chair.
All right. Anything else, commissioners? Direction? Oh, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you very much. Thank you. A handful of different thoughts. One, I wanted to let this commission know that this issue has been a discussion under the Special District Advisory Committee for many, many, many years in terms of how to go about this. So it's not something that was thought up in the last couple of years. It's probably been around for 20 years, this discussion. So that's that. Now, in terms of the MSR, where is, and I should already know the answer to this, so forgive me, I'm asking a question and I don't know the answer. Where is the Sacramento City MSR on our MSR plans?
interestingly enough, we just had a discussion this afternoon about it. The city has requested the start of the municipal service review for the entire city. They have not paid a deposit yet. I met with city staff. I met with city staff this afternoon, essentially, on what the options are. Because of the complexity of the city, we would have to outsource it. But cognizant of the issues that arose with Sac Metro, we requested essentially that the city provide us with a list of, for every major department, if they have had an updated plan, for example, for the fire department would be a standards of cover. For planning, they just updated a new general plan. For the Parks Department, they would have a forgot what it's called. Park Master Plan. It's basically provide us with a list of those documents that we can then incorporate it into the RFP. So when we solicit bids from consultants, they can see, oh, all these things are already updated. And so we don't have to recreate anything. We would just have to make sure that it complies. And so maybe, hopefully, the price of that MSR would be lower.
Well, the point about City of Sacramento needing cemetery services, that would be discovered in the MSR. So that's where this MSR list needs to be pushed.
Yeah, and it'd be something, the discussion that would have to happen with city staff, because for MSRs, it tends to be a snapshot of how they're currently providing services for the services that they are providing. And then number two, if they're planning on providing new services, it has to be enumerated so the LAFCo can review those. So cemeteries right now, they maintain them, but as parks, for the building of a new cemetery district, they would probably have to be included as something to explore within the MSR. But again, I reiterate that an MSR is a snapshot of how an agency is currently providing services. Since the city doesn't have an active cemetery, it would have to be kind of exploratory in nature, that discussion.
Yeah. Well, I think the MSRs deserve a certain futuristic look. That's what we're talking about here, and that's what we need. So let's expand that, please.
But the reason why the city has to specifically request it is that there's no reason to be looking at a service if there's no plan to provide that service. So if the city's interested in providing cemetery services, it should specify so that we could discuss it. Otherwise, it would just be an empty discussion.
Well, it sounds like the first step is to come before council as well, Sac City Council as well as County Board of Supervisors for this exercise in group think and try to come up with some ideas. The only thing I can come up with, and this is totally brainstorming, was to, I know park districts have been successful with special assessments. That's an ongoing day-to-day thing, and it'd be harder to do that for long-term planning like cemetery districts, but those are other options. Separate assessment. Here's a wild thought, and then I'll be quiet. If the district boundaries are reduced, and it's ollie Alex and free on the rest of it, and then a year and a day later, a petition is made to put in a new SOI, does that open up the tax increment potential?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones, your intelligence and wisdom is always appreciated on this body. All right, anything else?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a last presentation, and it's Mr. Brian Hughes.
Welcome, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you all for having me tonight. I really do appreciate it. My name is Brian Hughes. I'm of counsel with Best Best & Krieger. I'm general counsel to 2 of the cemetery districts here. I also have 30 other cemetery districts that I'm general counsel to across California, from Northern California to the Nevada border to the Pacific coast, and then all the way down to Mexico. So I have significant experience in this, and I'd like to quickly, because I know we've talked about this in extensive amounts, go over the potential choices and the impacts on the districts. All right, so average public cemetery district, I'll give you a snapshot of that. Key considerations to survival, impacts due to expansion. Generally, you have a board of trustees, 3 to 5 people. District manager runs the district. They usually have 2 hats, the district manager and the office manager as well. Office staff, 3 to 5 people with a grounds crew of 3 to 5 per cemetery. As you might have noticed, some of the presentations tonight, some of them had multiple cemeteries, while some only had one. That's a key consideration in terms of expansion as you expand the district boundaries and serve other communities. Oftentimes, to be able to actually have the amount of land that you need to stand up a new cemetery. You usually cannot do that with the staff and equipment that you have on hand. So what does that mean? Well, you have to still survive. And we've talked a lot about tonight, 3 avenues of survival. Property taxes, again, it never covers anything. It's always just what can you get out of it. Available lands. What I thought was interesting from the conversations tonight, a lot of the questions is, are the cemetery districts in this county similar to other counties? Yes and no. Are the problems that you are seeing similar? Yes. All counties are trying to solve the problem of what to do with cemetery districts. However, I thought a key consideration that was significant here is 2 of the presentations, and potentially 3, all included a survival factor of less than 10 years. That's a problem. Most of my cemetery districts, I want to see 50 to 100 years of interments available with land. Usually that happens is they have land and they have a lease on that land, so you have a farmer that's currently maintaining it. When they need that land, they break the contract and they develop as they need it. But again, I want to see my districts at 50 to 100 years. 3 of these presentations were at 5 to 10. And I'm going to tell you, they don't really have the income to buy the amount of land to actually get to 50 to 100. Obviously, that's not your problem. You can't solve that, but it is a consideration. Continued interments. The one thing that wasn't mentioned, again, because these were snapshot presentations, is how interments change over time. You know, when our parents were deciding on how to plan their end of life, there was always the consideration of full burial, so not ash. You know, a couple of people mentioned double depth, so you have one over top of the other, or you could have them side by side. But there was always the distinction that, oh, full burial. Even certain socioeconomic groups, it was culturally important for them to have full burial versus ash. However, that is changing with time. Things are going from full burial to ash. That uses less land, but it also is less costly. So the revenue figures that you see on the one-time purchases will go down inherently over time because the people are transitioning from full-body casket burials to just ash interments. And so you might see like anywhere between 50 and 200 interments in a year. Maybe 50, 75% are ash versus full body. I have some districts that are at 80% ash. Those revenues are significantly down. Does that allow them to have that full staff to even take care of the land? Not really. All right. I know there's a lot of text here, but I'll just go over it quickly. I've gone over, we've all discussed this to some extent, but the main key consideration, 2 of the cemeteries that presented have 1 cemetery. What does that mean? They have their office, they have their warehouse where they keep all their equipment, and they have their interments all in the same place. If they open up another cemetery due to an expanded service area, what does that mean for the district? Well, it means they have to have duplicative grounds crew and either duplicative equipment or equipment to move that equipment from site 1 to site 2. Oftentimes that would mean buying hauling trucks, or potentially buying new backhoes. You're going from 3 grounds crew to potentially 10. And does the revenue actually account for that increase of operations? Usually it doesn't. So what are potential solutions? I'm not going to stand here and tell you hey, help us negotiate for property tax. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to give you potential solutions you guys aren't necessarily in charge of. Again, I'm not asking anything, but just presenting potential solutions. Development impact fees and inclusion in the entitlement process. Development impact fees, everybody knows about them. School districts get, average $5 per square foot for all new homes that are built. What would the districts need? 25 cents. Back of the hand calculation. Is it legal? Absolutely. Placer County already has it on the books that development impact fees for cemetery districts is available. What would need to happen? City or a county just needs to pass a 2-sentence ordinance that allows cemetery districts to develop their own impact fees to be enforced. The other option, inclusion in the entitlements process. No impact fees, fine. If developments come into development lands, then they provide entitlements similarly that they do for other special districts. How do I know this? Well, I'm with the largest municipal law firm in the state. I write these. Oftentimes, these developers will give land, they'll give equipment, and they'll give money just to be able to develop their housing developments in these areas as part of the process to special districts. Cemetery districts could be involved in that process. So that's all I have today. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a generalized quick overview of potential problems and potential solutions. Again, there's no expectation for you at all on any of this, but just food for thought, so I really appreciate it. And I'm available for questions if you have any. Otherwise, I'll sit down. Great, thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, do we have any comments, questions? Oh, okay. So our next.
Do we have all the public comment on this item? Have we provided that opportunity?
Yeah, you should provide the opportunity for the
public
public
comment
in
on
case.
this item.
Okay, is there anyone who has public comment on this item?
We have not received any speaker slips.
Okay, seeing none. Now we can move on to the next item.
Yes. Mr. Chair, item number 11 is invitation by the grand jury to respond to their report on the city of Ileton.
Mr. Chair, I'll begin by just thanking everybody who's in the audience who provided information to you and responded to the request for this presentation. On this item, I'm going to, speaking of invitation, I'm going to invite council to kind of help weigh in and present on this item. The grand jury looked at what's happening with the city of Ileton and their challenges relating to governance and finance. They issued a new report in June, and in it they contained a numerous amount of findings and recommendations, and they invited for the commission to weigh in on the report. It's not a requirement, and so therefore you're not required to provide a response. You don't even believe it. You don't even have to decline to the invitation. But because LAFCo was named and invited, this item is before you as to whether or not you want to contemplate providing a response to the grand jury. If you were to do so, council has an idea as to which recommendation you can respond to, but I'll ask Council Gillick to add anything.
Hi, Dan Gillick. Just evaluating the grand jury's recommendation. One of the recommendations was for the city to consider, or LAFCo to consider options for disincorporation or that. If, for example, a disincorporation matter came to you, however it comes to you, the commission would be required to make findings, and that would be presented based on information you have at the time. So the recommendation is for the commission not to make findings at this time, because you obviously don't have information. You have not conducted it, and your staff has not conducted it. So it may be appropriate to respond as to information, as to the process, and the procedures that LAFCo is available and how LAFCo might be involved. But it is not recommended that you make any response as to any findings in the event that a matter comes before you. So the request was optional. If it is helpful and the desire of the commission to respond, information on the LAFCO process and disincorporation is what would be recommended.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments? Commissioner Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I will just say, as the supervisor, taking off my commissioner hat and putting on my other hat for a second, that represents Ileton. That poor city is in a tailspin. They don't need LAFCo piling on, whether it's legally advised or not. They have some tough decisions in front of them. I've been in negotiations with the individual council members, with the interim city staff, the contract city staff, obviously with our staff, and we are praying that they are able to right themselves and come out of this. But if not, and disincorporation is one of the things that they have to pursue, that will come before this body, and from what I understand has not been done since sometime back in the 1970s or so. And so basically there's nobody alive that even has gone through this process, let alone knows how to unwind a city. So
they might be alive, they're just not currently a LAFCo professional.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Good point.
I think wise words from Commissioner Hume. If it's going to come forward to us at a future date, we'll have all the information in front of us at that time to make a decision. And let's hope that they can work on their own, and we can be here as the backstop if harder decisions need to be made. But so, do I hear direction to not respond at this time? All right.
And Madam Chair, for what it's worth, LAFCO staff has provided input and insight to the interim city manager, the county staff on this. So it's not, we're not taking an entire hands-off approach. We're as requested, we're able to provide information to the parties about this.
Well, and thank you for, again, being a partner and helping provide context, which, if it does come to us, puts it in a way that we can make a decision that needs to be made or helps them survive this on their own. So direction has been given to not move forward on this, and hope for the best, and give our good graces to Commissioner Hume that you can come up with an answer and lead them out of this. So moving on to item 12, and were there any public comments on this?
We have no public comment.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed that. And then now consider the LAFCo Awards. Jose?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, it's that time of year in which LAFCo recognizes the achievements for LAFCO statewide, and they're inviting LAFCOs to submit nominations for various categories. They're listed on the memo provided by this interim LAFCO ED, whoever that is. And the
Never heard of them.
I don't know who this person is at all. But the various categories that are provided are actually listed on the memo as well as on the attachments. I will respectfully request or submit to the commission to consider is that your commission should nominate itself for the My Gotch Innovation Award because your courageous act last May relating to Del Paso Manor. That was the first time a LAFCO had utilized the provisions of SB 938 on an active district. Fresno LAFCO has the distinction of being the first one to do it, but they did it on inactive districts. You did it on an actual active district, and while you never really followed through and dissolved Del Paso Manor based on the provisions of 938, your actions actually led to a very good outcome, which is the reorganization of Del Paso Manor into Sac Suburban. And so I think your commission should consider that as a nomination.
And before I turn it over to you, Commissioner Jones, I appreciate that. I was going to say under LAFCO's leadership, as well as Supervisor Desmond, who was the chair at that time, in many stressful evenings, meetings, late night, you both went above and beyond on this, and I can't think of something better to nominate, especially Supervisor Desmond and all that you did to help make it happen. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. I concur with every word said. If we need a formal motion, I would like to make the motion that we nominate Sacramento County LAFCO for the Mike Gotch Award at the LAFCo conference coming up in October. And that is based, as is in our packet, it says innovation, collaboration, outreach, and effective support for the effective delivery of municipal services. And Sacramento LAFCo, with terrific leadership from our County Supervisor Desmond, as well as EO Executive Officer Jose Enriquez. And everyone stepped forward with their best foot. The community, the boards, this council, staff. I think it's an appropriate nomination.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Desmond?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second that. I think you're certainly piling it on a little thick in terms of my contribution, because I was just really a bit player. It was the LAFCo staff and Commissioner Jones' tremendous leadership and support. I was in a unique position to take the slings and arrows from the constituents who did not support this, but I think this is really something to celebrate. And I didn't know we were the first. I didn't know we were such trailblazers. It would have been a lot more stressful had I known that. So, thank you.
So I hear a first motion and a second. If we're in favor, please vote.
Your motion passes unanimously.
And I'm assuming, Clerk, we had no public comments on this item.
We do not have any public comment.
Thank you for that. All right, moving on to the next item.
Item 13 is Executive Officer Commission Council, the Astro Sheet, Correspondence, and Letter of Opposition, SB 777.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, before we get to the Astro Sheet, I wanted to just point to the letter of opposition, SB 777. This is the letter that I submitted on behalf of the Commission a while back, and this is about 3 or 4 iterations of the bill since then. So it's really irrelevant. I'll probably end up sending a letter based on the new, based on how the bill currently reads, and I think it's probably going to get out of the legislature. It is related to, for members of the audience, relating to cemetery, abandoned cemeteries. And the original language of the bill basically mandated that LAFCo appoint abandoned cemeteries to either cities or the counties. And then it went on to mandating LAFCO form a new cemetery district. And then it went on to various different things. And I was negotiating, wearing my interim LAFCO interim executive director hat, negotiating with the author to trying to change it to something that would be more manageable and more palatable. We did get there. We actually the bill was amended to include going through the LAFCO process with no predetermined outcome. So you still retain your discretion as to whether or not the action that's going to be taken. Eventually, it's just morphed into the current state of the bill, which is essentially a study about what to do with abandoned cemetery districts. So it's much more benign now, but the letter's there for, to let you know that the letter was submitted from Sacramento LAFCo. And with that, I'll turn it over to your policy analyst, Garibo, to talk about the Astro Sheet.
My favorite thing. Thank you. So we don't have any new applications submitted formally since our May commission meeting. We do have some projects that are moving forward. And let me back step real quick. We do have Desiree Fox, our other policy analyst. She's back this week, so really excited to hand over some projects to her. Yeah. But some projects that are moving forward. We have, as of tonight, you guys approved the consent item, which is hiring a consultant to kick off the Metro Fire MSR. So that's going to be in the works. We also have the Florin County Water District, which is the MSR. We have a draft that we're reviewing with staff internally. We'll be meeting with the district soon and with the recommendations on what that looks like. And Omno Chimney Hartnell, we are working with doing an agreement with a consultant to do the MSR for that one as well. So there are some rumors of some annexations in some cities, but those are still in discussions, and we'll see what that looks like soon.
Well, no, they actually submitted.
Okay. We do have Airport South did send an email, and we are going to be accepting the application and moving that annexation application forward. So Desiree Fox will get that one. So that's all that we have right now.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Seeing none, all right. That kind of takes us to item 14. I jumped a little bit. Any separate commission, chair commissioner comments before we head into our next item?
Actually, Madam Chair, one more announcement from the executive officer. I did hear that Chris Tucker, who's a former LAFCo commissioner, public member for many years, passed away recently. So if you wanted to adjourn the meeting in his memory.
I will adjourn the meeting in Chris Tucker's memory. Do we have any other comments on items that I did not call?
We do not have any.
All right, then I would like to close this meeting in the service of Mr. Tucker, who has passed away, but thank you for all your public service, as we now adjourn into closed session for a public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B. And we will do that now.
And we will also be discussing labor negotiations as it
and
appears
labor.
on the agenda. Thank you.
Yes.